So at this point, you're ready to graph your data for the basic relationships labs. So if we open up the lab, you have 6 labs where you're going to have the data for. On each lab, there's a link that you can click on that will take you to a graphing software called Desmos. I'm going to start with the 4th lab because there's some interesting things I want to point out with the 4th lab. Hey there, guys! So looking at the 4th lab, I'm going to pull up the data, which we can find here for the virtual students. So we're looking at the tiles, mass versus length. So according to the data, I got 1.25 mass and an area of 4. So I'm going to write that down, 1.25, 4. And then I'm going to put the other data in, 6.66220. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put all the different data points in there. After I get the data points in there, I need to go ahead and make a best fit line. To do that, I'm going to take this slider and I'm going to try and line it up with my data points. And I can move the orange line, my best fit line, up or down using the B value, which is the vertical intercept. I think it should probably go through 0, 0. And then I can use the orange line to go through those other data points. After I get all of my data set in there, I can go back and change the labels so that I make sure that I can get this graph completed. To change the labels, I'm going to click on this wrench. I always want all of my graphs to be set up in projector mode, so I click projector mode. And then this one says x-axis, change the label. The x-axis was the mass in grams. The y-axis, it says change this label as well. That was the area, and it was measured in centimeters squared. Okay, so now I've got my graph, my labels set on my graph, and as soon as I get all my data, then I can take a screenshot of the graph. I want it, whenever I take my screenshot, I want to have the M value in there, and I want the B value. That way I can go back and figure out what was the slope of this graph. Okay. Another useful thing is if you log in or sign up with Desmos in the midst of working on a graph, if you have it set up and you set up an account, then you can save a graph. So that way if you make a mess up on something, you can always go back and you can find that graph that you are working on. Okay, so that's one example. Another graph that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the data for the mass of blocks. So I'm going to open up the lab number 5, click on Desmos, and then I'm going to start typing in the data. This is the number of blocks, and then this is the mass of the blocks. We got 165.61, and then it's like 190 or I think 69.99 or something like that. 3 is 174.32. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put the rest of my data in. As I look at my graph, I can't see that data, so I'm going to zoom out, and eventually I'll see that my data is way up there. The problem is I can't really see what's going on. If I look at my overall data, the highest Y value I ever have is around close to 200. So if I click the wrench, I can change my settings for my graph. My highest X value is like 10. So I'm going to go with -2 to 12 and -50 on the Y-axis, -50 to 300. Now my data should be able to fit in here. I got to put it on projector mode. The problem is when I try and get the best fit line to go higher, it won't go there. Because right now it's set to go somewhere between -10 and +10. So if I click on the +10, I can raise the upper end of the range. We can put it at 200. And if I do that, then I can move this bar up higher so that I can try and get a best fit for my data. Okay, So using the graph settings, I can change x-axis and y-axis. Clicking on the edge of these numbers allows me to change them. Like if this was actually a negative line, which it's not, I could put -5, and then I could go through and I could see what would a negative slope look like. So you're messing around with Desmos. I want each graph to have a label. I want the labels on both graphs. I'd like to have the values of M and B in my screenshot, and then I can take a screenshot. Once I have my screenshots for all 6 graphs, or after each graph, I go ahead and I can paste that screenshot into the document, and then I'm ready to turn it in. If you have any questions, please make sure you email me or ask one of the people who are in class. But that's what we're working on for the rest of this unit.